people. And that's why we have wolves and other large predators. Now, what that's saying is, in most cases, people have gotten accepting survival of the fittest. And that's not okay, because our children need more. Their inability to successfully balance the school's expectations with the area of academic difficulty and their giftedness frequently results in low academic performance. And that's a cycle that is not broken. It will lead to self-esteem issues, depression, and lower performance. The placement of a gifted and talented learning disabled student in a special education program, not SPED, but a special, different, made for them program, reinforces low self-esteem by focusing on the disability rather than the strengths. That's all of their SPED, where it ends up being that instead, let's focus on all of your strengths and work with your challenges and go from there. Next. Now, gifted kids come in all shapes and sizes, from all socioeconomic backgrounds and all communities. Forget the stereotypes. They are, above all else, they're individuals. Next. Now, this is a traditional classroom. I put that up. It's, again, what your children are used to in a traditional classroom. I have no problem with public, private, whatever. This is not my point. I work in all of the different modes, actually, and try to help every student I can. In a typical situation, you have a teacher, an instructor that's standing up front. Especially when the older they get, the more it's actually more difficult it is. Middle school and up, you have the different classes. They're going to go ahead, they're going to use the whiteboard, they're going to use the textbooks, if you're lucky. But they can't end up doing the textbooks, in a lot of cases can't bring it home. So you're not going to be able to go over for them what it is that they missed. They're going to end up in giving the instructions, and then as they start going through all of these different things and what they interpret and planning their summer vacation and everything else that they can end up doing, then it ends up being flip-flopped to, all right, does anybody have any questions? Well, the whole classroom, they're so this. Go ahead and work those few problems, and then I'll come around. There's no time. Because in a lot of cases, too, there's these gaps that they ended up having. And so, well, I'll just get, you can come in and you can get tutored, you can get all these things later. That is not the answer for our students. Go ahead. They have a right to an education that's appropriate to their ability levels. There are various program models, the curriculum developments, and teaching methods that can help meet that. Next. Now, this is what we do. Our programming for gifted education is acceleration. That's one. Moving the student to a level of study that matches his or her aptitude and a mastery in one or more area. How do you end up getting that acceleration? How do we know where they're supposed to get to if we don't know where they are? It is not enough to just look at the credits that they've received. It is not enough to just know that they've been taking A's this school year. It is not enough to have a state-regulated test that says they're doing exceptionally well. Because remember, all standardized tests from every state is based on that year. It does not go back to decide what it is that they missed. So when you suddenly get into the college level of standardized tests, and that's why a lot of the IQs get thrown off too. The IQs is picking up all levels. So any of those gaps that were missed along the way, even though they've got all kinds of accolades from doing the best on their state test, all of those things show up. And that's why acceleration, once you find out where they're missing, get that filled, and then they can start accelerating. And accelerating is basically, again, if you're really great at some of the, if you're talented in some of the different groups, you're talented in some of the different subject areas, or even that day, which can happen, go, go, go. Wherever you are, if you have an entire group of children and you start them all at the exact same, if it's truly self-paced in the sense of doing your best, not do you feel like working. Self-paced, we can't even hardly say self-paced anymore because the children have the sense to say, well, myself thinks I should pace slower. Stop. So the whole thing is individualized and blended. That's why we stay with individualized, because they are, we know where they need to be, where they need to go. And then on that daily basis, then we move them forward. So they may be, if you start all of them on the same exact place, because at the end of the year, they're all different. In fact, usually the first month, they're all different. Because even though they're supposed to do the same amount of minimum pages, there's going to be some kids that someday finish unbelievably early that day. They ended up having homework for the last 3 days, but they were on. So that's when we push them. Okay, get on. Do your next day. Do 15 days later. Whatever you want to do is fine because you're on. And so that way, they're challenging, remember, without frustrating. Frustrating is if it's too easy or too hard. Either way is very frustrating. Enrichment, the classroom teacher provides additional work and/or activities and materials for individual students who already have mastered. That is not the same, okay? Harbor does not just then say, oh, I know you got through with everything, here's some more handouts. That's what's killing our kids. They're so tired, or, here, would you go help so-and-so? He doesn't understand his work. Oh, so now I'm a TA? Yes. Yeah, you are. So instead, what we try to do is, even though it's in the same concept, it may still be, well, why don't we do this additional experiment? Why don't we do, so it's not just, you're not being punished literally either for being smart. Why would you give somebody busy work and say, great, what happens after a while when you say, hey, I got all of my stuff done, I've got this class, thinking I could go home a little early and do all that. Well, here's another 15 piles, you can do somebody else's work. Or you can just do work for the sake of working. Or you can just do just all kinds of writing journals and things like that. If that's not right, after a period of time, do you think they'll still excel? Would you? Very few people want to just work just for the sake of working. Busy work is to them very insulting. Curriculum compacting. The students may pre-test out of the units of study when they've already mastered and pursued other studies. If you know it, move forward, period. That's why, again, the placement. And if you end up getting a concept down, and even though like in math, it's all based on repetitive, it has to be with math. But once you get that down, our instructors go through there. Once you prove you've gotten that, then we move on. If you've got redundancy on a concept, they're going back in and review. If it's greater than 6 problems and not a new concept, then you can do half of them. That's all due to the instructor. Once you find, when your instructor starts figuring you out what you need to do, what you don't need to do, then you're able to move on. And then again, it's the different approach, higher level of thinking. This is more of the levels of, for instance, essay writing. For some essay writing, we have to do an adjustment. And some that have never understood that an essay needs the 3 points, then that's what we're going to focus on. When there's other ones that know that and then some. So we're going to have them on the same exact project. Somebody is going to do a 6-paragraph essay. Someone else may do a 3-paragraph essay. Because that is putting them at their level. That's what true differentiation means, is we're trying to get you ready because your destiny is probably going to be different. And that's what we're doing, is we're evaluating what your destiny is. Next, please. All right, this gets us in ignition, okay? I wanted to specifically tell you about what our curriculum is. Our curriculum, this is when you sign on, and so far, of course, I can't see very good. I'm hoping you guys can see some of this. And we'll get you also some copies of some of this. This is all going to be, this is explained as well in our handbook, and your children will be learning this. The first week and a half of school will be core procedures. So a lot of you guys have even added at the end of last year, we open enroll throughout the year. So it's not unusual to have students that come in midway. Our other students who have been here for our entire 9 years, still somehow, well, when did we start that? 2006. Oh, I don't think anybody ever told me that. You're right. I'm sure that all of the things that are slathered all over the place, you know, we need to go back over it. But procedures are all very, very, very important. So, oh, go back again for me. All right, this is how they sign on. They're going to use their 3 initials and their birth date. You will have all of that in their red binder. If they forget it, it's okay. You will know. 3 initials, birth date. Now, they click on it, it says Ready, Set, Learn, and this is what they're first going to go to for a while. This band, you hit the play button. That's why they all need their headphones. When they tell you that I don't have to listen to things, I only read it, that is not all true. Actually, it's not true at all. Well, I was just trying to be nice. But actually, that was trying to be nice. They're lying like pigs. So you press the play, and this neat little gentleman tells them all, hey, this is what's new. These are the newest things that we did over the summer. This is how we tweaked it. This is how you need to do it. There's also a help. When you hit the help, there's tutorials that they can even go into. If they forget how to do things and walk it through, it's all right there. Obviously, we're right there too, but they like to do it themselves again, and we encourage that because that's how it also works. If you end up to being able to go to find something that you don't remember and you're resourceful, can you imagine if your children became incredibly resourceful? That would be amazing. They could find things in your refrigerator. It would be amazing. Next. Now, what they're going to click on at this point is these are their courses. Now, this is a high school course. So this is biology, and then it's got the lessons and the projects. Projects are available for them to start on at any time. That is why, if they have a weekend or they have some different things, they can get ahead. There is a drop date on, you cannot take your main unit test until you have all your projects done, but we encourage them to start working on it early. So at any time you can have your child sign on, you will see all that they see. You've got your parent portal, which we'll talk about on the communication part. It's in your handbook. Everything I'm saying to you on every reference is now in the handbook. Every form, everything is in the handbook. They'll click on biology, let's say, lesson. Now, immediately, see that little bitty block in there? Little bitty man, he's a little tiny man. He's Tiny Tutor Man. Tiny Tutor Man, you click on there and he tells you a little blurb of something. Now, let me just tell you about, it's not my children, in this case, it's y'all's children. They have figured out that they can be much more efficient if they do not click on anything. And they can just actually read 2 sentences and start answering the questions. That's how good they are. They are incredibly efficient. They don't learn, but they're very fast. So, and this goes by a little bit at a time, and don't worry, because we are there to help, because this is not our first day. And so, when you go, you're looking, this is all the little blurb of it. Then you end up with defining. Here's some things, your objective, your goals for the lesson. After the tiny tutor, the tutor's telling them too, hey, these are some things. And this is not these goobs saying, our solar system, this is what you end up like. No, it's just fine. It really is. I would encourage you to just click on it every now and then. Again, let's say they're not paying complete attention, or there's some dyslexia, or there is some ADHD inattentive that makes them where they have to reread things. And that just is how it is. There's not so many things that you're going to be able to do to fix that. But we do have all this where they can highlight it and click, and they can choose the voice to even read. Do they want a woman to read to them or a man to read to them? I forgot what all that. It's like 6 different people that can read it to them. So they can read. Now, we don't want them to let them read while they sit there and make airplane sounds and all of that. We want them to actually read along, okay? So when they're home and do that, no, don't worry, I'm listening. No, you're not. You're playing games. Oh, I do this all the time. I'm allowed. The answer would be no. You need to read along, because we're trying to also train their brain to read along, okay? So, as they read along, next slide, then this is still the same lesson. Little Tiny Tutor Man, there was another Little Tiny Tutor Man. They like that because it's literally like, what, 60 seconds. So they now said, well, I do click on the tutor. Yes, but there's a Attractive Man over here to the side telling us about Aristotle. That's another thing that they need to do, play. Because then it suddenly goes into a YouTube, not like the YouTube that you're thinking, but a very specific YouTube that tells all about and has live footage of everything that they're talking about. Much better than the pictures in the books, okay? So then they're going to click on that, and he's going to explain it for a while. Again, that is what they learn from. And there's actually, shockingly enough, and very unfair to most, there might even be some questions that has to do with something that they're supposed to be clicking play on. I know it's horrible. I know it's horrible. Next one. Now, this ends up being that, I'm going to read these things on the bottom for you. This is, oh, could you mind going back for one, the back one? Just like scroll down on, there's something happened at the bottom. There must be a missing one. They could end up with, at the end of the lesson, it says, do you want to go on to more of the lesson? Or are you ready to answer questions? The questions being about just what you just read. So then you click, then you're on, here's your questions. This is going to be match the following. All of the match the following, just so you know, this is a horrific, incredible secret. They're in the vocabulary. Every one of them. That's the matching. It's identical to the vocabulary. Just a little tidbit, just for those who came. And for those of you at home watching this. So that's why the vocabulary is critical. In fact, no child has ever failed a test when they knew all of the vocabulary. That is not to say that they made a straight 199, but they never fail if they know all their vocabulary. And that's one of those things. Well, I didn't know how to pronounce it. Why? You just click on the little speaker, and it's pronounced for you. And again, some of the other clicks, if you want to do help, it will even go into this whole other deep-seated etymology on the name. Here's what happened. All of that, if you want to know worlds and worlds of it. So now you're going to ask. There's an ask for help button. There is a turn it in. This is the other thing. We don't want them to turn it in just yet. We think it's a good idea for them to actually look at what they answered. And so that's what we try to encourage them. But they're efficient, so it's not uncommon for them to just turn it in. Right away, the next one's turn in, the next one's turn in. And so then they may end up getting a god-awful score. Go ahead to the next one if you would, because I think it's, yeah, keep it right there for a second. So if we end up having on ignition, that's why it's so important that they keep their spirals and they write up their corrections. Because sooner or later, which is more efficient? Read the lesson, click on play, ask questions when you don't understand, because you have a one-on-one tutor right at your fingertips, not just a tiny tutor, but the real live instructor that can explain it further. Is that more efficient? Or having to go back in and correcting everything that you just did? So do not be dismayed when they had, well, that's usually what you'll see on homework. We will sit and say corrections. Most of that is to say, you will go back over and over and over. We have all day, every day. We're here to serve. We will allow you to redo and recorrect. Not for credit. You've got a bad grade. But you will still have to correct everything, because sooner or later, we all have to learn. Every one of us have had to learn. It is much better to take that little bit of time and do it right. And then you don't have to go back in. And then as they start being more confident in that, then you will see that. We're really trying, the older they are, the more we try to get them to take notes. This is a very new concept for the majority of our children. They have not really taken notes. So trying to get them to take notes, our goal is just that they have page after page. That is an unrealistic goal for most of our students. Again, I don't even need to read the goals. And if it's working, I mean the notes, if it's working for them and they're doing little patterns or they're doing different things, then that's absolutely fine. As long as it's something that helps them to remember the material. Again, notes are like codes. I explain it to the students that when you end up, if a cop stands and there's an accident, he does not write down every single thing that the witness says. There are some key things that he says that they writes down in order. That's all I'm asking from them. so that then they could go back and do your full report, so that you have enough information. But what are those